you've been on tour, right? The tour that you were promoting here with Roger. How's that tour been, Michael?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. We just did the West Coast Swing, which also involved a very weird trip to St. Louis as part of the West Coast Swing. I guess that's the gateway to the West. But St. Louis, a podcast at the airport in Minneapolis that was sort of the highlight, and then Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, L.A. It's been great. But I'll tell you, a couple of things occurred to me on this tour. Mm-hmm. One, if you go to any American city now and you make mention of another American city, the boos that rain down, the bile that is spewed from the audience, I think there is a lot of intercity hatred in America, and that bodes very well for the future of American soccer, because I think intercity hatred is a very important thing, even in these United States of America. We've also been talking a lot about, and we had Billy Bean on the show in San Francisco. We talked with Billy Bean about whether American soccer, Rich, is just too middle class. And if it's fair to expect the best middle-class kids in America to travel around the world and to beat the best working-class kids from every other nation. Because if there was a middle-class World Cup, America would win it going away. No one would beat our middle-class kids at football. We have the best middle-class players in the world.
Do you think there are because we were talking about last hour, Michael Davies, a couple more minutes with Michael Davies of Men in Blazers, that there's a kind of a soccer snob here in the United States that doesn't like folks like me or Chris Brockman, you met a couple of weeks ago here on the set, surfing in, just parachuting in once every 4 years to pay attention. Do you think that's existing?
I mean, there are all sorts of soccer elitists, just as there are basketball elitists and football elitists, and believe me, the golf elitists came out, in force last weekend after Shinnecock. Yeah, there are soccer elitists, but there are people who dislike the casual fan. There are people who dislike the fan of European soccer. There are people who dislike people who like the MLS. There are people who dislike the people who dislike the people. And it's just, I sort of feel like anybody who's interested in soccer at any time, in any team, in any form, is like a rising tide lifts all boats, and it would be good for everybody just to enjoy all of it. Football should be fun. This is why I love Telemundo's coverage. With all great respect to our friends at Fox, watching the World Cup on Telemundo, Rich, is one of the great, joyous experiences of life. You don't even have to like sport. You don't have to speak Spanish. You don't have to like football to enjoy watching football on Telemundo.
I need to do that then. I got to do that. I got to check it out. So,
The Spain-Portugal game, which ended 3-3 on English language television, ended 9-9 on Telemundo.
That's right. Before I let you go, Michael, because the U.S. was out, we the three of us here on our show pulled names out of a hat to adopt as our adopted nation.
Okay, interesting.
Chris chose Argentina. He pulled Argentina. My man Mike chose Japan. And I chose Mexico, which was phenomenal when I started rooting for Mexico on Twitter, and people were throwing the words Wells Fargo and Landon Donovan at me, and I had no idea. Exactly. I had no idea why. I had to look it up. Who do you think does have the advantage when it's all said and done between the three of us?
I think Mexico. I think you probably in Mexico, but Mike with Japan. Japan are in that upside down group, Group H, where Japan with that win over Colombia, heartbreaking loss for Colombia, and after Poland lost also. Japan are in pretty good shape as well. I think that Mexico have a chance of going fairly deep in this tournament, though.
That'd be great. That would be great, because we have a last longer. The two who doesn't last longest has to dress in full kit and regalia. That's fantastic.
Well, I got to tell you, actually, on Telemundo, Mexico have already won the World Cup. They gave the trophy and it's all done. They're just playing the rest as sort of like the back door. It's like the NIT going on right now. So, like, if from a Telemundo level, you've already won, Rich.
Michael, there you go. I love it.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.